Welcome, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call from our city clerk, Kathy Valdez.
The record shall reflect that all members are present.
And our city attorney, Walter Chung, will bring us out of closed session.
The City Council took no reportable action in closed session today.
Council member, let's make sure we have order in the chamber. Council member Contreras is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? Begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, our city clerk, Kathy Valdez, has some procedural items to cover.
Thank you, Mayor. In accordance with the Brown Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Buena Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to Buena Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. I would like to remind everyone that the Vista Municipal Code requires members of the public to observe order and decorum at the meeting and to conduct themselves in a courteous manner. The ordinance was adopted to allow for public input and facilitate city business without disruption of the meeting. Applause is appropriate for items listed under the presentation portion of the agenda only. Thank you.
To address the council this evening on an item, please fill out a speaker slip with the item number you'd like to speak on and give it to the clerk, secretary, staff. The speaker slips are available on the table just outside of the city council chambers. For members of the public participating via Zoom, you may use the raise your hand feature to indicate you'd like to speak, or press star 9 on your phone. We will announce when to raise your hand to indicate you would like to make a comment during the specific item being discussed. Speakers will have 3 minutes each to address the council. Now we'll go to City Manager John Conley for approval of tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. No changes to this evening's agenda.
Very good. And now it'll bring us to oral communications. Any member of the public may address the City Council on agency-related matters that are not on our agenda tonight by requesting to speak during this section of the agenda. If you are participating via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature now if you'd like to make an oral communication, or press star 9. The number of speakers that will be heard during this segment is limited to 10. Any remaining speakers will be heard under the second oral communications item later in the meeting. And we do have a few public commenters. We will start with Aaron Garcia, and then we'll hear from Phil Church, and then Kimberly Cross-Purdy. If you would, when you hear your name called and you're next in line, please go ahead and come down, take a seat in the front row so you're ready. Go ahead, Aaron Garcia, you've got 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Council. My name is Aaron Garcia, and I'm the newly appointed president of the State Club at Vista High. Our club's mission is to reduce the use of tobacco, alcohol, and other harmful substances amongst youth by raising awareness of the serious health and environmental risks they pose. I'd like to start by thanking the City of Vista for its ongoing efforts to address the issue of tobacco waste. We recognize and appreciate the recent implementation of ash can receptacles as a step forward towards a cleaner and healthier community. However, I'd like to share some important observations with the most recent cleanup event this past Saturday, which was hosted in partnership with VCC and Handles. Volunteers collected 3.14 pounds of tobacco-related litter, primarily cigarette butts, throughout the downtown Vista area. This bucket contains last Saturday's collections combined with the tobacco product waste collected at our cleanup that took place on February 8, 2025. It is important to note that cigarette butts are the #1 most littered item in the world. Cigarettes are made up of cellulose acetate, which is a non-biodegradable plastic. Once littered, they can leach lead, arsenic, and nicotine into the environment, which can be harmful to not only our environment, but also to wildlife, small children, and marine life. Our volunteers also reported that the majority of this waste was found near local breweries, bars, and alleyways, suggesting that certain high-traffic areas may need additional attention and resources. This shows us that we're making progress, but more can be done. For instance, in 2013, the City of Encinitas passed a ban on smoking and vaping in outdoor public spaces. State Club is committed to continuing these efforts, and we'd like to extend our support to the city. Vista Community Clinic offers free tobacco prevention resources such as signage and educational materials. Together, we can reduce tobacco waste, protect our environment, and promote a healthier future for Vista's youth. Thank you for your time and your commitment to our community.
I just have to say that that's really disgusting, and so I appreciate you picking it up. Thank you for bringing to show us what a great job you're doing, and also what a terrible menace littering is. Now we'll hear from Phil Church.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm going to see if I can be more disgusting than that guy was. I wasn't prepared to speak tonight, but an event this afternoon prompted me to come, and it was a leisurely visit to the Buena Vista Park over in Shadow Ridge, which I attend often and enjoy. At the end of our walk, we went to use the 2 restrooms, one little building, 2 units. The unit I went in had no soap, no paper towels. The other one had no soap, no paper towels, no toilet paper, and no functioning sink. In addition, had what appeared to be, I have pictures, human fecal matter on the seat. And I was troubled because this is an issue that I brought to appropriate levels at the city in recent months. That appears to be a lack of the contractor providing services being paid for. So just as I was going to leave, Public Works graffiti guy, who was excellent, showed up to do his graffiti thing, and I pointed out to him, he said he was going to lock the unit so people wouldn't go in there and call for immediate service. This is more of a trend than a rare exception, is why I'm prompted to bring it. It was disgusting and inappropriate. Budgets to rebuild new restrooms, I understand. Lock them, put a porta potty there and pay the rent. This shouldn't have people exposed, especially little guys. I want to give a heads up to the council that I intend to provide a more detailed presentation regarding my opposition to the current citizens traffic petition process, the documents, the process, the oversight, the legal aspects of non-citizens and non-residents voting to make capital improvements through the street stop signs and speed bump affair. She's coming soon. Thank you.
And just real quick, Mr. Church, this council did have a conversation about park restroom maintenance recently, and we all agreed that we're not happy. And we did give instruction to the city management to increase, and I don't remember exactly what the increase was, but it was about double, I think. So we are focused on that, and we appreciate you holding us accountable on that. We want to deliver clean restrooms in all of our parks. I think I speak for all of us when I say that. Kimberly Cross-Purdy, and then we'll hear from Dawn Taylor.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm going to talk about Bub Williamson Park today. Anyone surprised? Yay! You know that I come and regularly speak about the park because as a member of the residents that live around the park, we have growing concerns as we're approaching the holidays, being 4th of July, about the illegal use of fireworks. We're excited to know that we will have representatives of the city coming to close the park, so we have a timely closing of the park. Thank you for that. But we do want to get in front of the idea that the fireworks and the gunfire are already beginning, And I was here to ask, we've been listening to talk about the Smart Streets campaign, and part of that is the gun detection process, which is the stripped iPhone that can be used to detect guns. What it can also do is detect sounds such as fireworks and give our officers a little bit more opportunity to be able to hear and find out where that's coming from, in hopes of getting patrols to that home or to those homes where it's being done. And in some cases to Bub Williamson Park, Grapevine Elementary School. So I'd like to ask if we could bring that in front of City Council before the end of June, just to pull that one piece out of the Smart Streets and talk about that. And also talk about other measures that we could do, maybe putting up some signage talking about illegal fireworks and other measures that we can do to keep that neighborhood safe. So that, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for listening and for always doing your best for our city and our parks. Thank you.
You'll be happy to know that I ask, and it's going to be on the agenda for our next council meeting, to discuss fireworks and all of our collective operations to try and combat illegal fireworks.
Awesome. I do know that the sheriff has been working with us too. We've been calling and talking to them as well. So I'm really appreciative. It's been a really grave concern for us in our neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll hear from Don Taylor, followed by Katrina Priest.
Good evening once again. And tonight I have a voice where I never had a voice before when I came here.
And talk right into that microphone and we'll hear you loud and clear. There you go.
I've been out of my apartment for 2 weeks because it was very polluted. It was so polluted, it called for an N95 mask. And I didn't know what was coming in. And this is not just me, I don't understand. Carlsbad has gone smoke-free and Encinitas, and they're protecting the people of secondhand smoke. They're protecting their health. I shouldn't have to live like this in anybody else that shares vents, or it comes through the baseboards, it comes through the walls. Whatever came in that night, I don't know what it was, but I couldn't speak. I couldn't talk, I couldn't even think. My girlfriend came from Torrance and came and got me, and I stayed there for a while until I could heal. I don't know what happened, I don't know what it was. These are the things that we're dealing with at the complex, and I'm not the only one. It's frustrating because my granddaughter said, "Grandma, you didn't have to live like this. You shouldn't have to live like this. Can't anybody do something about it?" I said, "I've been trying, but nobody wants to do anything. They're turning a blind eye." I don't know if you care about other people's health or if it's just what you do in the city for parks and recreation or whatever, strawberry festivals or whatever. But I know when you're elected as officials, you're to think about the integrity of the people too. So I really don't want to live like this anymore. And I know something can be done. And I remember talking to you on the phone, Mr. Mayor, and you were saying you don't want to tell anybody how to live in their own home. But when it comes to the health of other people, shouldn't you be thinking about protecting the health of other people since it's your city? I just came off of 7 rounds of antibiotics since November because of this. 7 rounds of antibiotics in and out of emergency. I went on a nebulizer machine. I don't want to do that. I want to stay healthy in my last years of my life. Please, if you could, do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from Katrina Priest on Zoom, followed by Megan Stewart on Zoom.
Good evening, Vista City Council and Mayor Franklin. My name is Trina Priest. I'm a middle school teacher. The importance of averting the initiation of harmful drug use by teens cannot be underestimated. Addiction is a pediatric onset disease, so preventing young people from beginning drug use gives them the best chance at fulfilling their potential. We know that the Vista's marijuana storefronts are very active on our teen social media advertising their products. Community members have tried to provide research regarding marijuana businesses whose advertising, promotions, and physical presence increase marijuana normalization and access. Educators like myself have deplored the high potency flavor marijuana products being sold in marijuana storefronts that are particularly attractive to our youth. And these marijuana products are primarily smoked or vaped. Smoking and vaping, tobacco, and marijuana are the leading causes of preventable death in the United States, according to the CDC. I followed the city's unwise idea to add more marijuana venues to our city, including outdoor areas. Such a proposal undermines California's longstanding and highly respected smoke-free outdoor air protections. CDC also reminds us that secondhand smoke, also known as environmental tobacco smoke or ETS, contains over 7,000 substances and poses serious health risks to both adults and children, as we've already heard tonight. It can cause or worsen various health conditions, including lung cancer, cardiovascular disease, respiratory illnesses, and reproductive problems. It is never too late to walk back marijuana business decisions, since research continues to give us such new understanding. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Next, we'll hear from Megan Stewart, followed by Terry Ann Skelly on Zoom.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Megan Stewart, and I'm here today to encourage the council to take a formal stance in support of California Assembly Bill 762, which would ban the sale and distribution of disposable vapes statewide. Each year, Americans throw away nearly 100 million disposable vapes, about 4.5 every second. Disposable vapes contain lithium batteries, circuit boards, toxic plastics, and hazardous marijuana or nicotine residue. They are explicitly illegal to throw in the trash and nearly impossible to recycle, yet they end up in landfills, waterways, and on our streets. Each discarded vape contributes to the growing e-waste crisis that affects communities like ours. AB 762 builds on recent California legislation that classifies marijuana vapes as hazardous waste, a necessary step, but not a solution. The only effective solution is to eliminate these products altogether. These devices also pose serious health risks, particularly to our youth. Disposable vapes are often high in nicotine or concentrated marijuana and are designed to appeal to teens with sweet flavors, sleek packaging, and low price points. This has fueled rising addiction rates, with consequences ranging from respiratory issues and impaired brain development to increased risk of future substance use. The Surgeon General has called youth vaping a public health epidemic, and disposable vapes, which are easy to hide, easy to use, and hard to trace, are driving this crisis. Right now, AB 762 is in committee in the State Assembly. A hearing was scheduled but later canceled due to the author's request, signaling the need for a stronger local support. A formal resolution from the City of Vista could help move this critical legislation forward. I know that the City of Vista wants to protect our youth and promote a safe, healthy environment for families. Supporting AB 762 would build on that ideal and demonstrate our city's commitment to environmental responsibility, youth protection, and public health. Thank you so much for your time and consideration tonight.
Thank you. And next, we'll hear from Terry Ann Skelly.
Good evening, Vista City Council, Mayor Franklin. My name is Terry Ann Skelly. I'm a mother of 3 adult sons, a community volunteer with youth programs, and I also work in public health education. Parents like me feel almost defenseless against the pot advertising and promotions that are part of Vista's marijuana marketplace, especially when the research continues to come in linking these high-potency THC marijuana products to devastating effects on young adults' mental health. Several national parent groups are collecting and sharing their stories regarding the loss of their children. Young and vibrant lives ended by suicide after their descent into addiction through high-potency marijuana vapes and edibles. While rates of depression and anxiety have increased across age groups, children and youth are experiencing some of the greatest challenges. The California Department of Public Health noted last month that suicide is the second leading cause of death among adolescents and young adults aged 15 to 24. We feel that the risks of today's high-potency THC marijuana products and its effects on young adults' mental health are being overlooked. Hopefully, our city council can be counted among those trusted adults and healthcare professionals who are concerned about the harmful effects of marijuana on our children, teenagers, and emerging adults. Please, city council, no more marijuana businesses in Vista in your retail, cultivation, or special events. Thank you for hearing my concerns this evening.
Next, we'll hear from Barbara Gordon and then Becky Rapp.
Good evening, City Council. Prevention remains one of the most effective and cost-conscious tools we have in our fight against drug crisis. As a public health educator, I am urging the city to renew their investment in prevention and push back against the industry's back efforts to normalize drug use. A newly released SANDAG 2024 juvenile arrestee drug use in San Diego region reported nearly 98% of the juveniles interviewed reported using at least one illicit substance. 68% of those youth arrested said marijuana was the first substance they experimented with. Unfortunately, numerous marijuana predators and policymakers that pursue profits at the expense of public health actively undermine prevention efforts. Our children are given conflictive messages when we tell them not to use addictive substance now being promoted throughout their neighborhoods. A study published in the Journal of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry found that states that permitted marijuana was associated with 13% increase in past month marijuana use among youth 12 to 17, 22% increase among young adults 18 to 25. Again, I urge the city to maximize prevention effectiveness. The lack of prevention education has serious implications for health equity for our community. Thank you for letting me speak.
Next, we'll hear from Becky Rapp, followed by Madison.
Good evening, council members. My name is Becky Rapp. I'm a public health educator deeply concerned about the rising threat of drug-impaired driving in our city. On May 3rd, a horrific crash claimed the life of Graciela Gomez, a grandmother and teacher, after 27-year-old driver admitted to smoking 7 grams of marijuana and driving over 100 miles per hour. He then crossed 5 lanes of traffic and triggered a 5-car pileup. This was not just reckless, it was preventable. There's a dangerous public misconception that marijuana is a safe drug, especially when driving. But data tells a different story. The National Institute on Drug Abuse confirms that marijuana significantly impairs motor coordination, reaction time, and decision-making, all essential for safe driving. Studies show that driving under the influence of marijuana doubles the risk of a crash. And when marijuana is combined with alcohol, the impairing effects are exponentially greater. In California, up to 40% of all DUI arrests now involve drugs, not just alcohol. Despite permitting the permitting of pot, we have no legal THC thresholds, no roadside THC test equivalent to a breathalyzer, and very limited public education on the issue. That's a public policy failure. I urge this council to act. We need a citywide education campaign warning that driving high is a DUI. We also need to support state-level reforms that establish enforceable THC driving thresholds and provide funding for drug recognition training. Thank you.
Now we'll hear from Madison. Madison, can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry, I just got the unmute there. Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm here to highlight a growing environmental issue, which is similar to what's already been shared actually there, tobacco and e-cigarette waste, and urge to support for stronger smoke-free policies. Cigarette butts are the most littered item on Earth. and we see the effects right here in Vista on sidewalks, in parks, and near schools. These cigarette butts are made of plastic, and they contain toxic chemicals like arsenic and lead that can pollute our soil and waterways. One cigarette butt alone can contaminate up to 1,000 liters of water. And now e-cigarettes are adding a new layer of harm. Their plastic pods, metal coils, and lithium batteries create electronic waste that's difficult to dispose of and dangerous to the environment. Many end up in the trash or on the ground, leaking heavy metals and chemicals. But we can do something about it. Smoke-free policies work. They reduce litter, protect public health from secondhand smoke and vapor, and promote cleaner, safer spaces for everyone, especially children and families. They also save cities thousands in cleanup costs. I urge you to strengthen Vista's smoke-free ordinances to include all tobacco products and e-cigarettes in public spaces. Let's set a clear standard that protects both our health and our environment. Thank you so much.
Okay, that'll bring us to the end of our oral communications opportunity, and we'll now close the opportunity for oral communications for this meeting. And will bring us to our consent calendar. The recommendations on our consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless an item is removed from the calendar. Any member of the public may remove an item by submitting a request to speak card to the clerk secretary, by using the raise their hand feature on Zoom, or by pressing *9. Items removed from the consent calendar will be considered immediately following the adoption of the calendar. We have 13 consent items this evening. Deputy Mayor Melendez.
I would move to adopt the consent calendar.
Okay, very good. Councilmember O'Donnell.
I would second that.
Very good. We have a motion, a second. Seeing no other speakers, please cast your votes. That item is approved unanimously. That'll bring us to the first of 5 public hearings this evening.
Just for the, it says waiting for my vote, so I might have accidentally hit my button twice, but I am voting in the affirmative. Okay.
Oh, all good? Okay. There are 5 public hearings this evening. The first is regarding collection of delinquent sewer service charges. Public hearing is now open. If any members of the public wish to speak on this item, they may indicate so by using the raise their hand feature, by pressing *9, or submitting a request to speak card. Speakers will be called upon after the presentation. Our Finance Director, Mike Sylvia, will briefly introduce the item. And we remind everybody in Vista that we're happy if they don't pay their sewer bill. It makes it easier for us to collect it when we, through this action, add it to their property rolls.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. Sarah Taylor, our Finance Manager, is actually going to introduce this public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council, and thank you, Mayor, for the great introduction of the item. And the purpose of this public hearing is to authorize the collection of delinquent sewer service charges through the property tax roll as permitted by the Vista Municipal Code and Buena Sanitation District Code. Sewer service charges are levied annually on each parcel of real property connected to the sewer systems. There is no penalty to the ratepayer for placing the delinquent charges on the tax roll. This action does not increase existing rates, but ensures recovery of unpaid charges in accordance with applicable regulations, and it does simplify and reduce costs for the city as well by putting it on the tax roll. So this concludes the staff report, and we are available for any questions.
Councilmember Fox, you had a motion to approve the staff recommendation and
move
close
to
the
approve
public
staff.
hearing?
To close the public hearing and approve staff's recommendation.
Deputy Mayor is going to.
I would second that.
Very good. Fantastic. All right, we're getting in the groove. All right, seeing no other requests for comment on this item, we have a motion second. Please cast your votes. We got 4 more of these, so. Okay, that item is approved unanimously. That'll bring us to our second hearing regarding levy of delinquent mandatory trash charges fiscal year 24-25. The public hearing is now open. Any members of the public wish to speak on this item that may indicate so by using the raise your hand feature, pressing *9, or submitting a request to speak card. Speakers will be called upon after the presentation. Finance Director Mike Sylvia will introduce the item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Assistant Finance Director Matt McDonald is going to speak to the item.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members.
Matt, turn your mic on there. Hit that little button in front of your microphone.
My apologies. I'm used to my voice simply being loud enough. But
You definitely are.
thank you very much.
But we don't get to hear from you enough, and so I wanted you to be heard loud and clear by everyone.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. This annual item is a recurring item, which is statutorily required by the Vista Municipal Code, Section 13.16. Specifically, collection of refuge trash is mandatory for all residential, commercial, and industrial properties. EDCO, the city's franchised tax hauler, identified 201 delinquent accounts totaling approximately $46,000, $55,000 with fees, which were more than 2 months in arrears, and mailed notice to those solid waste customers in late March. On April 22nd, the City Council set June 10th, tonight, for a public hearing for the purpose of levying any remaining delinquent accounts on the security property tax roll. City staff issued a final notice to the affected customers after the April 22nd council action. The largest single delinquent amount is $617. Staff recommendation is to conduct and close the public hearing and approve the item's resolution. This completes my presentation, and I am available to answer any questions.
Councilmember O'Donnell.
Move to close the public hearing and adopt the staff recommendation.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. That item is approved unanimously. Our third public hearing is regarding a levy of delinquent fiscal year 2024-2025 charges related to administrative citations. The public hearing is now open. Any members of the public wish to speak on this item may indicate so by using the raise your hand feature, by pressing *9, or by submitting a request to speak card. Speakers will be called upon after the presentation. Finance Director Mike Sylvia will introduce the item.
And actually, Mayor, Assistant Director McDonald will present this item as well.
Very good.
Mike is on this time. Thank you. Similar to the previous item, this is an annual recurring item to place prior uncollectible administrative citations onto the property tax roll. It requires 2 steps to complete, and the first step was completed by the City Council on April 22nd, which facilitated tonight's public hearing. There are 35 affected property owners with citations totaling approximately $25,000. Affected property owners were notified by certified mail of tonight's public hearing. The citations are for accumulated junk, illegal parking, illegally parked vehicles, inoperative vehicles, false alarms, graffiti, stormwater, property maintenance, business license, and missing permits per Exhibit 3 to the agenda report. The largest single citation is $8,154, which is for a business license. Staff recommendation is to conduct and close the public hearing and approve the item's resolution. This completes my presentation, and again, I am available for questions.
I just have to single out Mr. Rich there in the back and the wonderful code department. Thank you for your good work. This is the people that didn't want to write the check and send it in when you give them a fine. We're going to collect that now with this action on the property tax rolls, but I didn't want to pass on the opportunity to say thank you for your good work, keeping Vista beautiful, making sure people take care of their obligations to their neighbors. Deputy Mayor Melendez.
Yes, thank you for all your work. I just had one question. You mentioned use of certified mail to notice those who are delinquent. Is that cost included in the levy, or is that just a cost to the city?
I believe, and I would go to double check, but I believe that we include that cost as part of the fines. Typically, any fees that we incur on trying to collect any items that are in collections increases the amount that we collect.
Okay, fantastic. I think that that is fair. So I would go ahead and make a motion to close the public hearing and accept staff's recommendation. Thank you.
I think these are these also our fire mitigation? Is that in this one or is that in the next one? That's not in this one. Well, on code, I just like to, this is twice a year, get a chance to say, I know that our code enforcement department never wrote anybody a citation ever before they gave them a warning, and we always try to use honey to get what we want rather than vinegar. And I always ask the code department, and they always do, to work with property owners. So these folks have been notified probably a half dozen times, right? I see Mr. Rich shaking his head. Yes, I mean, these people have received a lot of communication. I just want to point this out. They got a lot of communication. They know that they had a problem. They refused to rectify it. And we hate to have to deal with it this way, but We got to keep the city looking beautiful, and we appreciate it. Councilmember O'Donnell.
I will second the motion.
Motion is second. Please cast your votes. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Our next item is a hearing regarding levy of assessments for fiscal year 25-26. The public hearing is now open. Any member of the public wishing to speak on this item may indicate so by using the raise their hand feature on Zoom or pressing star 9 on their phone or submitting a request to speak card here at the dais. Speakers will be called upon after the presentation. Finance Director Mike Sylvia is the only one left sitting in front of us. I think he will introduce this presentation.
Yes, sir, this one is mine. Good evening, Council, Mayor and Council. Much like the first 3 public hearings, this is an annually recurring item. It does require 3 steps to complete it. On March 25th, Council authorized the preparation of the annual engineers reports for the Landscape and Lighting District Number 1, Street Maintenance District Number 1, and the South Melrose Landscape Maintenance District. On April 22nd, Council approved those engineers' reports, including the rates of assessment, and ordered tonight's public hearing. The recommended assessment rates in all of the districts are at the pre-Proposition 218 maximums, and the required noticing of this public hearing was provided via the city website posting as well as newspaper publication consistent with state code. Staff's recommendation is to conduct and close the public hearing and approve the 3 resolutions associated with the item.
Councilmember O'Donnell.
Motion to close the public hearing and accept staff recommendation if we need to do that on this one.
Councilmember Contreras.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing no other requests to speak, please cast your votes. Motion is adopted unanimously. That'll bring us to our final public hearing tonight regarding fire hazard severity zones ordinance. The public hearing is now open. If any members of the public wish to speak on this item, they may indicate so by using the raise their hand feature, pressing star 9 on their phone, or submitting a request to speak card. Speakers will be called upon after the presentation. Our fire chief, Gerard Washington, is here to introduce this item.
Good evening, Gerard Washington, Fire Chief, City of Vista. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. I have with me Deputy Administration Brett Davison, who will be my lovely assistant today to get me through this PowerPoint. First and foremost, this year we've come before you twice, building the plan to keep Vista fire safe after the tragedies up north. With that, it's been multiple layers that we've had to kind of implement and ask for support in order to be successful. You saw some of these maps at the presentation of April 22nd, but we're going to revisit it and explain why the support of this ordinance is important for us. I also want to take the opportunity to thank the City Attorney's Office for all the work they put in to assist us to get this thing done. So thank you. You know, I always start off my PowerPoints with this, the importance of what exactly does fire department do. What's not noted on this slide is what we've been doing, being proactive. I've heard some of you from the dais say about forecasting, and it is imperative as a fire chief and as a fire department that we forecast and be proactive. The tragedy, again, that happened up north, we were well ahead and already working on things to address some of the concerns and problems that they experienced up there. At this point, we'll have Brett step in and go over the next few slides.
So some of the history with the fire hazard severity maps is CAL FIRE was legislated by the state to look at all the state responsibility areas in the unincorporated portions of California. And then after that, they were tasked with looking at local government in the incorporated cities in California. They first did that, and then they codified it in a public resource code in the California Code of Regulations. And they basically, it led to the local government agencies having to adopt the high severity zones that were established by CAL FIRE. So we've done this once before. We have an older map that we had to adopt. At that time, it was just the high hazard severity areas. They've since updated them in the March 24th, 24 version to include medium, high, and very high. This is the map that I'm showing you here was adopted June 11th of 2009. That was the last time they had updated it. And you can see that the very high hazard areas are along the eastern portion of Vista, because that's where we have exposure on that side. And then you can see Agua Hedionda in the southern part of Vista, that creek bottom. Part of that is that they're looking at 20-year fire history, and they're also looking at weather conditions. In 1979, the Agua Hedionda area burned all of the area that you see in red and into Oceanside and Carlsbad. It was a lot less incorporated, but that fuel is 46 years old, but it's still in the criteria, and it's still the fuel, the weather, and the topography, if they line up, would still burn in the same fashion. So the new map that came out on March 24th, you can see that they expanded, they changed their fire behavior model, and they added more coverage from fire embers into the plume. So you can see that the areas grew down on Agua Hedionda in that creek area in the south, and it's kind of sandwiched between the industrial park and the residential area. And then you can see that it grew, some of the plume data increased some of the areas in the northern part of the city. So what we're presenting to you today is that we've met with CAL FIRE, we've looked at the maps. There were really no recommendations from CAL FIRE. We can't change any of the medium, high, or very high areas. They did the calculations and they said, we can have input, we can ask questions, but really they are what they are, and by government code, we need to adopt them. Then the other areas that we wanted to identify in there that we're asking you for support is Buena Vista Creek, Buena Creek, and Agua Hedionda Creek. You can see that Agua Hedionda Creek is a thoroughfare, so when we have fires, and same with Buena Vista Creek area, so we have a lot of heavy fuels in those areas. Because CAL FIRE only recognizes fires that are over 10 acres, all the little fires we get in there aren't recognized on the fire history maps, but we know we have a lot of fires in those creek bottoms. We also know that when we get east wind driven fires, the fire follows the path of least resistance from east to west. So according to the fire recurrence maps, those areas of the creeks will burn every 6 to 60 years. The more humans we have in those creek areas, they burn on a more regular basis at about a 6-year interval. But even if we don't, there will be fire weather on average at about a 60-year interval. And right now, the fuels in a lot of these areas are 46 to 60 years old. So by adding in the creek bottoms into our local agency as high hazard, it allows us to get funding and identify those areas for fuel mitigation in the future so that we can have grant funding that's related. So Chief Washington's going to go over the kind of the proactive grants that we're looking for in order to mitigate those areas as well.
So yeah, so with the authority of the city manager to bring it to his attention, as well as support from the council with the first one that we talked about was fuel mitigation crew. Working with the school district, the partnership with them as well, and the Vista, Fire Protection District, forgive me, as well. We applied for a grant so that we can hire seniors that graduate from high school and have them help us clear out some of those areas. It's that workforce development program, and working with Dr. Doyle and his staff, I believe Vista is the perfect fit for what the criteria was for the grant for us to even put in for it. We should find out here in the next week or two, and that will help tremendously for us to have resources within the city to assist Public Works and to address some of the concerns that some of your constituents have brought to you, the things that they're saying. It is a great pipeline for us to help these young men and women, 15 per year per the grant that we'll hire, with a total of 45 over 3 years, to, again, assist the city as well as the district, but more importantly, get people in the doorway to get them in positions where they have family-sustaining professions. We also, being innovative when we hire these young men and women and get them EMT certified and other certifications in order to, we want the talent to remain here, obviously. We only have so many vacancies, but these individuals will go out into either North Zone or into the county and be true tributes to the fire service. And we'll always remember that Vista gave them that leg up, and the school district as well. There are 3 others that we are currently working on through Cal OES, and it deals with the 3 areas that Brett described. And with that, it's ensuring that, first and foremost, we have permission, this, because a lot of these grants have a match. It may be 25% or whatever, and ensuring that you all get the information that you need to make that sound decision. Is this something you want to be a part of? It's Vista leading the way, not only in the North Zone, but in the county, being proactive, being innovative, and meeting the needs of not only our city, our North Zone, but being that example for others to kind of model. Because even with this vegetation management crew, we reached out to Chula Vista, who had stood this up about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, and they actually assisted us in making sure we didn't hit some of the potholes that they hit. And so we appreciate that partnership. Working with Oceanside, as you saw, they're one of our partners as well. I do believe we have something amazing here, and we're keeping our fingers crossed in order to be successful. But thank you again for your continued support of Vista Fire Rescue, and I want to take the opportunity to thank the admin staff that has worked tirelessly on making sure that we get everything we need to on time. I'd like to thank Brett here for all the work he's doing and looking for opportunities for us to assist our city and the district, because it is a team effort. And without that support from everyone, the floor, from the command staff, this can't be done. So with that, if you have any other wait, I think there's one more slide. Wait, there's more. Okay, Brett.
So these are two initiatives that we're doing. So you guys passed the ordinance for fuel abatement. We're actively, doing fuel abatement right now to make the community safer. In addition, we're looking for grants. And then these are two initiatives. One is Firewise USA, and we've had our fire inspectors meet with the homeowners association groups on how to harden their homes, how to provide fire-safe landscaping, and how to come into compliance so that their community can be recognized, so that they can reduce their insurance rates. And then as a department, we're striving, the applications open July 1st, but with all the efforts we're doing with the ordinance and weed abatement is we are going to apply through the Board of Forestry to have the city of Vista and the Vista Fire Protection District to be recognized as a fire risk reduction community. Right now, legislatively, there's a move to make sure that because that's codified in California regulation, that the insurance companies have to provide a discount. What we're trying to do is make it more difficult for for the insurance companies to drop our residents, because we're doing the responsible thing in Vista and we're being proactive in doing it. So it's not just the ordinance and the enforcement and the encouragement and the education that we're doing for the community, but it's also writing grants and being responsible and trying to be recognized for the work that we're doing for the community overall.
And again, we always put this out there as essential preparedness apps that are available to the public to be aware of what's going on around them. With that, we ask for support on this and for you to adopt the ordinance.
Well, I'm sure you'll have it from the entire council. I just want to say thank you. I mean, obviously keeping our residents' homeowners rates as low as possible and preventing fires is a big deal. We do live in an arid, dry place, and understanding that all this beautiful brush that we get to enjoy for about 45 days in the summer, as it grows and then it dies again and becomes tinderbox, and it builds up over decades. Eventually, it's either cleared by us or Mother Nature has a way to deal with it, and that involves burning it. So it is very, very important. So that's great. I love the training program. I can think of some other people we might be able to help. Probably not people that they might not have a career in firefighting out of them, but there's probably other people that might be able to help with this brush clearing too. We'll have to talk about that in the future. But I like everything I heard here, and I'm really appreciative of your leadership to make it happen. Thank you. Councilmember O'Donnell.
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing and adopt City Ordinance 2025, or staff recommendations, fire recommendations. I just want to say thank you for the report. I know of 3 fires in the last 2 years, one on Mar Vista, one that was in Calypso Heritage, and then the one that took place right next to Station 5, that were all immediately put out that could have led to catastrophic damage to our community in this city. So anything we can do to prevent that. I mean, we have one of the best firefighting service men and women in the world, in my opinion, and I know you all do a great job. So anything we can do from a city standpoint to support that, you will always have my vote and my support to do so. I appreciate the hard work of all of you and the men and women that serve in the fire department. So keep up the great work, and I'm happy to support this.
Councilmember Contreras.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and second that. And I do have a question. So this CAL FIRE map was just recently updated. Is there a certain interval of when they update? Do we have an idea of when the next one? Is there something that projects 10 years in the future? I mean, I see that Vista continues to get encroached upon by, some of this very concerning possibility of fire.
Yeah, that's a great question. The last one we had to adopt was in 2009, so it's been quite a while since they updated. There was a lot of political pressure to update it because of the insurance industry, the increase in catastrophic fires. The insurance industry is not supposed to use these maps. They use their own risk maps. But if it's a risk map with CAL FIRE, it's going to be risky with the insurance companies as well, no matter what catastrophic model you put it through. They do talk about the interval is increasing to every 5 to 7 years to update them, but it depends on CAL FIRE and their resources. So they do plan on updating them more often. This one was supposed to be to us by January 1st, but when all the fires occurred in LA, there was a delay in getting them out, and I think Northern California came out before we did, and ours was delayed for 3 months after the fires in LA, I think because they wanted to make sure that their calculations were in line with the fires that we had.
Okay. Yeah, I've mentioned before, I'm really curious too about what we can do. Funds being limited for undergrounding and whatnot, but just being able to have some kind of strategic way to address prioritization for undergrounding, especially as we see that there are more areas, potentially, especially north of the 78, where I don't know. I don't even know how many polls are out there, right? So I would love to at least have that data point so that we can start building, kind of a long-term plan, probably 10 to 25 years. The other thing that I wanted to ask is, I know that we have, I'm always concerned about reaching folks, especially more vulnerable populations, some seniors in these areas that might be close or within high fire severity zones. Do we also have a strategy to communicate directly with folks that are, in this area to ensure that they understand proper evacuation and what to expect? Have we addressed that? Are we looking at doing a campaign for that?
These are some of the things that we are going to address, and that's been part of our strategic plan. We've had a couple of town hall meetings and things like that, and we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to use social media to get the message out, but it's just repetition. It's no different. It becomes muscle memory, and every chance we get when we have some of the open houses coming in this fall addressing these things, when we get in venues where they invite the fire department to come in and talk to the senior population, we take advantage of that. We have some amazing inspectors that are out there every day meeting with the public to answer the concerns and to try and assist them to get through this. I mean, it's terrifying for people to think about being trapped. And so we're trying to state how important it is to be prepared and not to wait till the last moment, because the roads are going to be jammed and it's going to be a free-for-all. So as a department, we will continue to get that message out, the importance of being prepared and looking for the population that are most vulnerable. And our relationship with SDGE, they have notifications of those addresses in which we're aware of those that may need assistance, be it if power outages, they may have oxygen that they need and these things. And so it's imperative that we continue to work with that partner and ensure that the public is receiving the best services from all entities involved.
Yeah, and I wanted to add to that, if we have any kind of touch point with Yana, with You Are Not Alone, right, where we can, if we're going to be reaching a certain population that already is being reached by, our volunteer sheriffs to be checked up on, like, do we provide information about fire as well? The other thing that I wanted to say is there's not, some of this is obviously in the county, so looking at the Vista area, there's not a ton of streets affected where I feel like, I mean, this is like going to come out of left field maybe, but I'm curious if there is an idea of maybe having block parties in these areas where we can have some kind of a community resource fair. And because I'm always concerned that people have a hard time getting to any town hall or anything like that. But I feel like we could potentially come up with some kind of strategy to like bring this information directly to folks. I think this map could really serve as a way to plan for something like that strategically.
And we can address that with the open houses that are coming this fall, taking an opportunity. And there's something else that we're looking to roll out prior to the open house, and we can tie it all together. A week or two before we have the open house is to canvass a 2-block radius around that station, be it smoke alarms installation or the opportunity to talk about evacuations and being fire safe. If they allow us inside to make sure tripping hazards aren't there and things like that. But definitely want to help those that are often forgotten, the very young and the older population.
Right.
And support from your offices. I mean, you know the contacts that we need to be connected with, and we're more than willing to work with any and all groups when it comes to making sure our public is protected.
We have done, I know one of the directors in the got a homeowner association group together, and it was all just neighbors. So we went to somebody's house. We had about 50 residents there, and we informed them on the new ordinance, what we were planning to do, and it was a very positive result. So our fire prevention, and we will reach out any of the communities or neighborhoods that want to get together to have fire education. We'll come out there and meet them at their homes if they invite us there, and we want to get the word out. Another important initiative that Chief Washington's wanted to expand is a red flag warning. So we've talked to Vista Irrigation District, and we're notifying them when there's a red flag warning, and they're posting red flags. We're posting them in the district. We're talking about expanding that program so that rather somebody has a cell phone or somebody's a local resident or they're just walking, if we're partnered with the school district and the school district is letting everybody know there's a red flag warning, we're posting them at the schools, we're posting them in public places and roadways, we're getting the word out. And then we also have, that Chief Washington showed at the end was the Genesis Protect app and Watch Duty, and there's a lot of apps that even the people that are unhoused, a lot of them have cell phones, so that when we do a WIA, a wireless notification for an emergency, it's hitting everybody in that cell site in that area and alerting them that there's a red flag warning or that there's a fire in the area and they need to evacuate. So we are potentially trying to get people that have access to phones and don't have access to phones and let them know in real time if there's an emergency.
Fantastic. Well, I really appreciate the work that you do and continue to look at different ways to communicate and engage the public. It's 100% critical that we understand, right, what to do in the case of an emergency, because then you don't have time to figure it out. So thank you so much.
Okay, we had a motion and a second there. Please cast your votes. That motion is approved unanimously. We have 3 discussion items this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. We have 3 discussion items this evening. The first is fiscal years 2024, 2025, and 2025, 2026 capital project budget mid-cycle update. If any members of the public wish to speak on this item, they may indicate so by using the raise their hand feature on Zoom, by pressing *9 if you're on the phone, or by submitting a request to speak card here in person to the dais. Speakers will be called upon after the presentation. Our Finance Director, Mike Sylvia, will introduce the item.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening again, Council. Item D1 is to provide a mid-cycle update for the Capital Improvement Program budget, recommend new projects, revised appropriations as well for fiscal year 25-26. The original 2-year budget was approved back in June of 2024. Sarah Taylor, our Finance Manager, is going to provide the overview of the current fiscal year achievements, the new proposed projects for 25-26, and the requested revisions for appropriations for the ongoing projects within the budget.
Thank you, Mike, and good evening again, Mayor and City Council. The CIP is a 6-year planning document that is updated every other year. Of those 6 years, only the first 2 are actually budgeted. The remaining 4 are included for long-range planning. On June 11, 2024, fiscal years 2024-25 and 2025-26 capital improvement program budget was approved by City Council, authorizing the appropriations for 2 years. Staff has completed a mid-cycle review and is recommending revised appropriations, including 6 new capital projects. But before we review the changes, I'd like to highlight some of the projects completed over the past years. In the park improvements, we have done some court improvement projects at multiple parks, including the conversion of 2 tennis courts to 8 pickleball courts at Bringle Terrace Park. A new restroom facility was added at Paula Vista Park. And at the Wave Water Park, the lazy river was replastered and the roof was replaced to improve safety and enhance visitor experience. In public facilities, the remodeling of the building at 986 Vista Village Drive was completed into a new, and it was remodeled into a new sheriff's substation. Solar panels were installed at the Civic Center, which are expected to generate about 50% of the building's electricity usage. And at the Senior Center, improvements continued with the Azalea and Park Terrace buildings. The Azalea building now has a workout room, game room, and new offices, along with new flooring and fresh paint. The Park Terrace also has new flooring and paint, as well as a new kitchen roof. For streets, the town site Complete Streets Phase 2 was completed, adding nearly 2,900 linear feet of new sidewalks, 23 ADA compliant ramps, and 2 pedestrian signals along North Santa Fe, increasing pedestrian safety. Additional street projects include slurry seal of approximately 70 lanes of city streets in zones 3 and 4, including heavily traveled corridors such as South Melrose. Rehabilitation of 8.5 lanes of arterial streets, including East Vista Way and Sycamore Avenue, was completed. Installation of 46 speed humps with the appropriate striping and signage as part of our traffic calming program. Additionally, the Nevada Lemon Sidewalk Project added more than 3,100 feet of sidewalks and 8 new ADA ramps where no sidewalks existed previously. Additionally, a new sidewalk was added along Vista Village Drive near Michigan Avenue to support the future parking lot. Drainage projects include the installation of a new drain channel along Montemar Road near East Vista Way to improve stormwater flow and reduce localized flooding, as well as a detention basin on Monte Vista in South Santa Fe, which adds capacity to handle the stormwater runoff. We've also made progress on sewer infrastructure. An update to the sewer master plan was just recently completed. It was last revised in 2017. This completion reflects changes in land use regulations that are contributing to increased urban density. An update to the 6-year capital improvement program as a result of the master plan has been included as Exhibit 5 of the staff report. Also, as part of the citywide sewer rehabilitation program, we improved approximately 300 linear feet of 8-inch sewer lines, including point repairs and cured in-place pipe lining. Looking ahead, 6 new projects are recommended for fiscal year 25-26. The CIP budget detail sheets for these projects are included in Exhibit 3 of the staff report. Starting with public facilities, the replacement of outdated alerting systems is recommended at 5 of the 6 city's fire stations. These systems consist of lights, sirens, voice announcements, and scrolling video alerts, and are critical for timely and effective emergency response. The upgrades will improve reliability and efficiency, and the $1.15 million cost is proposed to be funded through the Proposition L reserve. Additionally, the replacement of the exhaust extraction systems at the same 5 fire stations is recommended. These systems are critical for removing hazardous diesel fumes in apparatus bays, protecting firefighter health, and ensuring compliance with safety standards. The project is estimated at $315,000 and would also be funded from the Proposition L reserves. A note that both the alerting and exhaust systems for Fire Station 3 are being addressed separately as part of that station's rebuild project. There's one new street project. It's the East Vista Way Raised Median project. This project includes the installation of raised medians and upgraded reflective signage. This project is primarily grant funded through a $2.6 million Highway Safety Improvement Program grant with a 10% local match funded from Regional Traffic Congestion Improvement Program fees, or RTCIP fees. There are 3 new sewer projects also recommended. The first is along North Santa Fe from East Drive to Washington Street. This addresses a known capacity issue and involves replacing and upsizing approximately 3,900 feet of trunk sewer main plus associated manholes. Its estimated cost is $1.45 million and would be funded through the Vista sewer fees. The second project is Phase 1 of the El Valle Opulento to Creek Crossing sewer improvement. This project replaces about 900 feet of trunk main and is expected to cost $1.26 million through Buena Sanitation District fees. The third project, and the last of our 6 projects, is on Sycamore Avenue underneath the 78 freeway. It will replace 700 feet of trunk sewer main to also resolve a known capacity issue or concern. This estimated cost is $260,000 and would also be funded through Buena Sanitation fees. Different than the operating budget, capital project budgets remain active until the project is complete. Of the nearly 70 projects expected to be carried forward into the next fiscal year, 15 have recommended appropriation adjustments. Details are provided in Exhibit 4 of the staff report. Changes include an additional $300,000 for the Public Works wastewater building project. This is funded through Vista and Buena sewer fees, and it brings the total project budget to $775,000. In streets, an increase of $85,000 for sidewalks projects is recommended, and this is based on the actual allocation from the Community Development Block Grant. Also recommended is a funding source adjustment for the residential street rehabilitation project. This will switch $350,000 of funds currently in the budget from RMRA gas tax to general fund capital, and this is based on updated availability from RMRA funds for capital projects. The overall budget for this project remains the same. Additionally, funding sources changes include the creation of a $1.5 million general fund capital reserve for future street improvements. To accomplish this, $1.5 million in general fund dollars currently allocated to traffic signal projects will be replaced with more restrictive funding sources. Specifically, available traffic impact fees and RTCIP fees will be used first to fund the traffic signal projects, and this will allow the freed up general fund dollars to be reserved for broader street improvements with less restrictive funding. On the sewer side, Vista Sewer Projects includes a $3.6 million reduction for the Encino wastewater capital projects. This number comes from the Encino Wastewater Authority draft budget and is reflective of their ability to complete the current projects and their current plan for the future years. 4 other Vista Sewer projects have recommended increases totaling $1.3 million for Vista Sewer fees, from Vista Sewer fees. Additionally, the Buena Sanitation District has a $1 million reduction in Encino wastewater project costs, and 3 projects with increases totaling $1.2 million from Buena Sanitation District sewer fees. In total, $27.2 million in appropriations is recommended for fiscal years 2025-26. This is a $5.6 million increase from the original budget adopted last year. This slide provides a summary of recommended appropriations by category. These investments reflect our continued focus on maintaining critical infrastructure, enhancing safety, and meeting community needs. Staff's recommendation is to adopt the budget resolutions amending the capital budget for 25-26, both the City Council resolution and the Buena Sanitation District resolution. This concludes the presentation, and staff is available for any questions.
Okay. Oh, we do have one public speaker, Sid Rothenberg.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and fellow council members. I recognize this is a mid-cycle report, but several things popped out at me, starting with the senior center, of course. The city recognizes the improvements with the renovation to half of the Azalea building and the aesthetic appearance improvements on the other half of the Azalea building, and painting the lobby of the Park Terrace. They refused to paint down the hallway past the bathrooms and into the bathrooms, nor did they repaint the dining room. But of importance to me in the Azalea building is that they missed the bathrooms. And all but one of you heard me several years ago come and talk about bathrooms with pretty pictures and not so pretty pictures and recommendations. And I don't want to do that again, but I can and I will. So I heard from several staff members of the city that there were plans that the bathrooms in the Azalea building would be renovated this summer. But I don't see it or hear it or read it in this document, nor in the presentation. So this concerns me because they're still outdated and they don't suit the seniors. So to me, that's a problem. And I hope that you might give some thought and consideration to this because it's brought up from the very beginning when the building opened with the new reservation and what would you do about the bathrooms. The second thing that came to my attention was the traffic signals. And I guess Sarah pointed out that there's going to be some limited funding for that. But again, I had a staff person tell me that they said there would be more attention to these traffic signals, and I'm concerned about them because we have a population of visually impaired that are not being helped or addressed with crossing our busy streets. And we have young children who would benefit from having these traffic signals that are improved with LPI and APS. And we have a San Diego Center for the Blind who has been in this city for over 50 years and is training people with blindness from birth and those who acquire it as with aging or other incidences. And they're getting trained to cross our streets here in Vista, but we're not accommodating any of this. So I would hope that in part of the safe streets and our city's concern, that more attention would be given to that. My time.
Thank you for your excellent advocacy for our seniors, and you know we take what you have to say very seriously, and we'll be addressing each of those concerns. Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Contreras.
Yeah, thank you so much for putting this together. I do want to just call out something that's not in here as well. I know that we have very limited funding, but I do want to just call attention to what could be a Luz Duran Community Center in the future. Right, we have an old house there. Most of the funding was utilized to do some upgrades at Luz Duran Park, but to also upgrade our new sheriff's substation. So I just want to remind the council that this is something that the community asks about all the time. The community is extremely interested in having a community center at Luz Duran. So I wanted to bring that up. I think that we should start planning and setting aside funding, whether that's like a match in the future for a future grant. But I do want to call attention to that, and if there's approval from my council to add that consideration. The other thing, I'm curious about the East Vista Way raised median. I do have a concern with the raised median. What we saw happen on another portion of Vista Way was that it became very dangerous to do U-turns. Very difficult for folks to do U-turns. So have we taken that into consideration with this design? And And if someone can kind of
Take that
speak to
one.
that.
Yes, we are aware of that. I was keenly aware of that at Anza, where the U-turns are problematic, and we frankly should have probably widened that a little when that went in, but there's a bank of utilities there that makes it extremely difficult. We are aware of that issue, though, with respect to this project. Two things. One, the U-turn capacity, and two, the issues that we had with businesses because of the rollout. So we're trying to address both of those. The design work won't start. We're just initiating it now. We'll come back and go through the templates for all the U-turns. We have a lot more right-of-way in this area than we do downstream, so we're not expecting that to be a huge problem.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely just want to be kept in the loop on that and look at some of these designs, because I know in that part of my district, it's gotten really, really difficult for people trying to make a right-hand turn when other people are trying to make U-turns, and there's a lot of different points of conflict that happen with that, and just overall frustration. Okay, and then thank you, Sid, so much, who is a commissioner on our senior commission, for bringing some much needed attention to these items. Do we have a plan to do renovations for the restrooms in the Azalea room?
Yes, we are working on those. It's a little delayed because of some of the work we had to do with the wave, but we're working on it right now.
Okay, and do we have an idea of what that time frame is?
Mr. Mayor may know in the back there. 6 months. We did direct staff to meet with Ms. Rothenberg to make sure that we address her concerns when the bathroom's done.
Okay, 6 months for it to finish or for it to start?
To finish.
Okay, thank you. And also, there was a point brought up about folks that are visually impaired. We did have a conversation in the past about safe streets, the fact that, we're going to add LPI. There's like 110 intersections. I really do think that we should couple that effort with looking. I don't know what the cost. It's a little bit different because for the LPI, I think it's just part of the software, but for APS, to help with that auditory, do we know, is that also a software or is that an additional technology that needs to be purchased?
Here comes Sam, I hear him. Sam, if you could come down and speak to that real quickly. I'm sorry, there's a question about the technology with our new signal projects for the visually impaired.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So all of our new traffic signals do come with the standard APS, which is accessible pedestrian signals for the visually impaired.
Okay, and what about our other ones that don't have it?
We have a mix depending on when signals were installed. We did upgrade some over the years. We do have a project actually going out where we're going to upgrade 5 more kind of on our major roads. But eventually, I think we're probably going to apply for a grant to do just overall signal improvements, including upgrading all the ones that don't have the APS to the current standard.
Do you have an idea? I know you weren't prepared for this, but do you have an idea of how many signals out of the about 110 don't have this technology and we would need to purchase a technology?
Yeah, we have not done the inventory yet, but I would say most of them do not have it at this stage.
And do you have a ballpark figure of how much these cost?
Yeah, the current project that we're taking to implementation, we're doing 5 intersections. I think it's about $15,000 per intersection.
Okay. So it's pretty significant.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I'm thinking a grant application to do APS plus other signal improvements citywide for any signals that don't have them would probably be a good way to get the funding.
Okay. And is that a type of grant that would need some community engagement, or is that something that we just do?
It's already been identified in our safety action plan. So
oh, okay. Fantastic. Okay, so we can just utilize that document?
Yes.
Okay.
So probably the next Highway Safety Improvement Program grant, which is in about 1.5 years.
Okay.
And we'll apply for that funding and do other signal improvements as well.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that's kind of a long time. I know it's like not that long in government, but I would be, I would love to chat offline and see, in that time frame, kind of what the holistic picture is for upgrading our signals and enhancing the safety for everybody. But thank you so much. And that is all from me at this time. Thanks.
Okay. So do we have a motion and a second for the recommended action? I think we're requested to adopt council resolution authorizing the mid.
So moved.
Councilmember O'Donnell, Councilmember Fox.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. That item passes unanimously. Thank you. Our second discussion item is regarding an agreement with Interfaith Community Housing Services for administration of Vista's Emergency Housing Assistance Program, Category 2 Homelessness Program. If any members of the public wish to speak on this item, they may indicate so by using the raise their hand feature, by pressing *9, or submitting a request to speak card. Speakers will be called upon after the presentation. Assistant City Manager Imelda Huerta will introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the City Council. With me tonight is Jonathan Lung, our Homeless Services Program Manager. Tonight, we will be reporting on item D2, which recommends entering into an agreement with Interfaith Community Services to administer the Vista Emergency Housing Assistance Program, Category 2 Rental Assistance Program. The rental assistance strategy supports the homelessness prevention goal of the strategic plan to address homelessness and was adopted as the Homelessness Prevention Pilot Program. The strategy began with 2 agreements with Lifeline Community Services, formerly North County Lifeline, both of which exhausted rental assistance funds in August of 2022. From August 2022 through October 2024, the city also expanded its agreement with Exodus Recovery to include rental assistance to help housing unstable residents avoid losing their homes. In June 2023, the City Council approved converting the Homelessness Prevention Pilot Program into an ongoing rental assistance strategy, supported by a new agreement with MAC starting in January of last year. That agreement, which operated the Vista Emergency Housing Assistance Program, or VHAP, expended its funding in December 2024. Through the strategic plan to date, the Homelessness Prevention Pilot Program provided $440,000 in assistance to 294 residents and 96 households. Exodus Recovery administered $40,000 to 24 residents and 8 households, and the VHAP administered $1.4 million to 362 individuals and 132 households. In total, the strategic plan has provided $1.9 million in rental assistance preventing homelessness for 600 Vista residents. And now I will hand it off to Jonathan Lung to talk about continuing the rental assistance.
Discussions about continuing the rental assistance program began on November 12th, 2024, when the City Council appropriated $200,000 from year-end fund balance to support a new program. The Standing Committee on Homelessness discussed the program design at its March 20th, 2025 meeting. Key modifications discussed included limiting assistance to up to $5,000 per household for up to 3 months, including arrears. Targeting assistance to households meeting HUD Category 2 definition of homelessness, those at imminent risk of losing housing within 14 days with no subsequent residents identified, and insufficient resources to secure other housing. The committee also discussed household income limits for eligibility, with preferences expressed for both 65% AMI and 80% AMI thresholds. The city then issued an RFP for an administrator of this new Vista Emergency Housing Assistance Program, Category 2, or VHAP C2 Rental Assistance Program, which closed on May 23rd, 2025. The RFP set the eligibility for the VHAP C2 program to residents of Vista who meet the HUD Category 2 imminent risk of homelessness definition. To accommodate the AMI eligibility preferences of both standing committee members, 2 separate funding pools were established, with 75% of awards limited to households at 65% AMI or less, and 25% of awards limited to households making between 65% and 80% AMI. Following a review of the 3 proposals received, staff recommend entering into an agreement with Interfaith Community Services. Under this agreement, awards of up to $5,000 will be paid directly to landlords and utility providers on behalf of eligible households. Basic case management will be provided to all awarded households, including financial literacy and budgeting support. Interfaith will submit monthly reports to the city detailing applications received and processed, households served, amounts dispersed, reasons for ineligible applications, and anonymized demographic and income eligibility data. Follow-up assessments will also be conducted 6 and 12 months post-assistance to evaluate housing stability. Vista residents will have access to VHAP C2 assistants and case managers at any of Interfaith's service centers, which include their Coastal Service Center in Oceanside near Vista, Carlsbad Service Center, Inland Service Center in Escondido, and by phone. All service centers are accessible by public transit and have on-site parking. Awarded households will also have access to Interfaith's comprehensive support services, which includes mediation services, eviction support through referrals to Legal Aid Society, employment services, financial literacy and budgeting as required by the program, credit repair, tenant education, transportation services, emergency food supplies, affordable health care referrals, financial assistance to receive identification documents, tax preparation, and CalFresh and Medi-Cal application assistance. The recommended agreement is for 12 months, with renewal options contingent on available funding. Interfaith will provide program updates and reporting as requested to the City Council, the Standing Committee on Homelessness, and the Homelessness Commission. This concludes staff's presentation, and we are available for questions.
Okay, and we do have one public speaker on this item, Hannah Gailey, on Zoom.
Good evening, City Council. Retread did apply for the contract, and while we don't have quite as many services to offer as Interfaith, we do have a strong presence in the city of Vista. We are connected to the homeless. We are connected to people who are losing their homes, and we have shown that we really care about our community. I do understand why you're going with Interfaith. I think that they're an excellent choice. But I do think that the council should give consideration to programs that are inside of Vista. We are inside the community. We are already providing services to people who are in need in our city. And I do think that that should be taken under consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. And I just want to say I kind of agree with that. We had Lifeline provided this service for us, and then MAC. Both of them are very Vista-centric. They're already working with the Vista community. Nothing against Interfaith, but it is a transportation challenge for people who are low income and may not have their own automobile to get all the way over to Escondido. And then one of my significant concerns is Interfaith serving a lot of people, and I want to make sure that the services are available to Vista families first. And when we're talking about people who don't have housing, the lines of residency get blurred really, really quickly. We've seen that. Let's just call it out. If you're homeless, you can be Vista homeless in about 10 minutes. If you can get here. Having the services distributed by a Vista provider gives me a little bit better sense of, especially as somebody who's already working with the vulnerable population in Vista, gives me a little bit better sense that that provider is going to keep the money in Vista for our Vista families. So for that reason, I would prefer that we rethink this and maybe fully review the offering from Retread before we sign this contract tonight, before we approve the contract. So I don't know if the council will be willing. I mean, basically the reason that we didn't award Retread was because they don't have experience doing this, but what we've seen is pretty substantially different models of execution from interfaith to MAC. There isn't necessarily a tried and true model for how to do this. One thing that I want to thank the deputy mayor is we sat down and put some really clear guidelines together for, that we think should be guardrails for how to implement this program. And I appreciate that dialogue and that work to shape these policies. But so I think whoever we award it to, it's going to be better. Nothing against interfaith, nothing against the staff's thoughts here, because it's the idea that they have the experience with this is a guiding thought. But I think that Retread can do it. They're already working with the community here in Vista, so I hope we'll just rethink it. Deputy Mayor Melendez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, for your work on this. This has been a successful program from the City of Vista so far. And I think what makes this new iteration so exciting is that we were able to receive additional grant funds for this. So I just want to applaud staff on all of your excellence in pursuing grants so that our public, City of Vista residents, are able to receive those funds. I agree, Mayor, the criteria that we've laid out is very substantial. We continue to improve this program. So not only do you have to be a Vista resident, but you also have to prove and indicate your risk of homelessness through a loss of housing, an eviction notice, or other type of supportive documentation. And it's that type of supportive documentation that a robust organization like Interfaith is very familiar with handling. They have long been working within the coordinated entry system and within these types of grant programs to make sure that they're constantly proving the eligibility requirements. I am very confident not only that they will meet the eligibility requirements for every participant who wants to utilize these funds, but Interfaith has the experience of administering these funds. And that is so important for this program at this time because we have decided as a council and as a standing committee that we want to make sure that these funds go to people who are at the immediate risk of homelessness, which means within 14 days they could be out on the streets. And that requires a level of confidence from the service provider that they're going to be able to turn around those funds and work with the landlord and work with the resident to make sure it happens right away. So I want to say thank you to Interfaith for applying and make sure that they are prepared and given full direction for how we want this program to look. I think that, as I said, we've been continuing to improve the program over time. And this iteration of the program, not only is it using external grant funds, but it is also really addressing those immediate risks to homelessness. And I'm very confident that Interfaith is going to be able to help people turn their situation around. And many of the folks that are interested in these types of programs are already receiving services from Interfaith. So one piece of feedback that I would have for approval tonight is to just make sure that we are continuing to follow some of the demographic information that we've requested in previous cycles of this program. For me, I'm very curious about what type of supportive services and public aid someone is receiving when they apply for this program. Right? Is somebody on food stamps? Are they receiving income benefits like Social Security or disability? That I think is very important to track because it helps us understand how many challenges are those applicants facing. And so Interfaith is very connected to people who are already receiving those types of services. And I would expect that they would have that type of demographic information. Is that something that we can expect in this program?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I want to make sure that we're continuing to follow that. And I think there has been a bit of a pause in the program because we've needed to to find additional funding. There's been a pause because we've had to reevaluate the criteria, and we've done that. And then, of course, we had to go out for a request for proposals for someone to administer the funds. So now we're in a position where we can launch the program again. And for many people in our community who are facing very tough times, this is a godsend. But it really is a lot of hard work, right, from our staff and from our partners to make this happen. So I would go ahead and move for us to approve the agreement and adopt the resolution so that Interfaith Community Services can administer our Vista Emergency Housing Assistance Program funds. Thanks.
Councilmember Contreras.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and second that. I just want to thank staff. I know it's really difficult to go through these proposals and to build the type of community resources that is necessary to really help someone who's in the struggle of not being able to have a home. So just thank you so much, and I'll second the motion.
Councilmember O'Donnell.
I also want to say thank you. I know there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into this. Thank you to our Standing Committee for Homelessness as well, Mayor, Deputy Mayor. I know that there's probably a lot of discussion that went on with this specific piece of it. I think I can be supportive of it. I just want to know, because I think the mayor brings up a good point, is there something that kind of, I understand there's an experience piece of it that's specifically tied to this, but I know Retread has done a lot of very good work in the city of Vista. So is there anything specific maybe that you kind of leaned on that made you decide that they weren't the best fit for this particular item?
Nothing specifically. Staff does believe that Retread submitted an adequate proposal, and we do believe they would have done a sufficient job. And it is primarily Interfaith's extensive experience with these programs that they were ultimately selected. And just to clarify as well, this isn't considered necessarily a homeless service. It is part of our strategic plan, but these are only for housed clients. So as far as eligibility, they will have established homes in Vista.
All right, I appreciate that clarification. Thank you so much.
Okay, Councilmember Fox.
Yeah, sorry for the last second on that one. Was there any preference given towards Vista companies, or was that not one of the criteria?
That was not a criteria in the RFP.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that we have a 12-month contract here with the option to extend. So I think that it's probably reasonable to go with staff's recommendation on this, and then potentially look at Retread or some other organizations for upcoming and potentially adding something like a Vista bonus for future RFPs.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. That item is approved unanimously. That'll bring us to item D3, our final item of the evening regarding speed hump policy. If there are any members of the public wish to speak on this item, you may use the raise your hand feature on Zoom, press *9 on their phone, or submit a request to speak right here at the dais. Speakers will be called upon after the presentation. And I asked for this item to be placed on the agenda for the simple fact that we've now spent more than $1 million on speed bumps, and we've had an opportunity to get some resident review. And one of the things that I believe there might be an appetite, the council, is perhaps to, at least to some degree, increase the ratio required from a simple majority to a larger number of the affected residents, just to make sure that it is in fact a consensus amongst the neighbors. And then also, I think, maybe we might want to kind of prioritize a little bit more, but really I want to hear from you. But before we do that, we do have Terry Constantine, who would like to be heard on this item.
Good evening, and thank you. Good evening to all of you. When I heard about this at the last meeting, that we were going to revisit this, I started to ask questions. My questions and somewhat answers are that petitions are delivered by residents. So a resident comes before the council and says, I want more speed bumps. I asked why we didn't know when that was first brought up. Was it brought up in 19, 22? When was it? And my answer by one of the council members was, well, just go back and look at all the agendas. And here's the link to the agendas. That's not my job. That's your job. You're being paid to provide information to the residents of why things come about and why we're spending all this money. And this refers to beyond the speed humps. It refers to the berms. It refers to the roundabouts that you all want to do. We need to know when it started. Was it one person that asked for the petition to put in these speed humps? We already have a very low speed limit on the other alternate route that the fire engines or the ambulances would have to go to that part of Vista. Now, with added stop signs, added signals, and more speed bumps, they're not going to be able to get through at all. We're all going to get stuck in a circle and being there. And I specifically asked for more information so that we could discuss this and understand, is this one resident that's put out a petition for each of these things? How many people does it take? 50? How many does it take? It takes a certain amount of people to recall you guys. And if we do a petition to do that, we just have to get all those signatures. And I'm questioning, is that the same for all of these other things? Especially when we're over budget already, and we're only looking at spending more. Listening to the homeless situation, quite frankly, I'm making a documentary on the homeless. So everything that you discussed today, I'm personally very, very familiar with. And some of those things, they're not answers for them. You have to look at everything. You got to do the numbers. And interfaith is wonderful. They're sweet and fantastic. But you have to do the numbers. Where are the people going now? Thank you. Question? You look at me like you have a question.
Unfortunately, this format doesn't allow us to back and forth.
Oh, I
wish it
didn't
did
know.
Sometimes. That's all right. That's all right. I appreciate you coming to speak. Thank you. Okay, now we have a commenter on Zoom by the initials LDF or LOF.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, good evening. I looked at all the information based on the City of Vista Council policy and also the speed hump criteria checklist and wanted to give some suggestions or maybe some more input if that's okay. That's why I'm going to do this. First of all, based on the Vista City Council policy on the speed humps, under procedures, number 2, it's under D, as in David, and second paragraph. And it says the petition should be completed per instructions. And some of the verbiage states, person collecting signature needs to complete, make 2 attempts if the resident's not there, document on the petition, residents who oppose it, put that in there. I really feel a completed petition per this policy needs to be submitted, or if not, it shouldn't be submitted. And if that's the case, maybe that policy under procedures number 2D, paragraph 2, maybe needs to be updated or maybe clarified a little bit better. That was one of it. And then back on the speed hump criteria checklist, I had a couple concerns. Under the conditions, and on this checklist, there is an 80 point that you need to qualify for it. If some of the listeners aren't understanding what's going on. Number 6, it reads street not scheduled for resurfacing within 16 months. It's worth 10 points, yes or no. I'm hoping that for this answer to be, correctly done, there should be supporting documentation. If it's coming from the budget, they would know if it's not in that budget to be resurfaced, or the engineering department. The only reason I bring this up is because our street, Cali Sinaloa, was on the May 13th meeting under discussion, where we found out number 6 really should have been answered no per the engineer. Ours is going to be resurfaced sooner, which thank you very much. We appreciate that. I'm glad our taxpayer money is going for that. Because if that was the case, it should have been no, and then there wouldn't have been 80 points. And should that petition even gone through? So I'm just looking for more transparency and documentation when these are answered. And then also on that checklist under petitions, I think Mayor Franklin hit that with the 51%. I'm thinking it should be higher. I'm looking at like possibly the least 67%.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the opportunity for public comment, and we'll hear from Deputy Mayor Melendez.
Thank you, Mayor. So based on the comments tonight, I have a few thoughts, but after reviewing the policy with our city manager this week, which was fully adopted in June of 2023, I think that there are a few things that we can improve, and my goal here tonight would be to improve the policy. I see that under procedures, we can go through all of it, but essentially we understand that there is an initial request followed by a petition process, followed by a more detailed evaluation by the traffic engineer. And at that point, under 2E in the policy, it reads that upon verification of the petition, the traffic engineer will make traffic speed and volume measurements, review the traffic accident history for the street in question, and determine acceptable locations for speed humps. Then it goes on to explain at what point the request and petition and approved speed hump would be heard by the Traffic Commission and the City Council, followed by some considerations regarding funding. So as we're discussing speed hump policy, we may very well want to have a discussion about financing. But I think one of the most common sense things that we can do is expand upon item 2E to ensure that a prioritization is established before it comes to the council. So instead of establishing a priority list only on the basis of funding, I think that we should have a priority list regardless. I think that we should know as a council when these come before us, whether it's via consent calendar, when it goes before the Traffic Commission, I think that we should know what is the priority and that we should be approving projects first and foremost that are hitting that priority framework. So what my recommendation would be is to expand 2E to explain that the traffic engineer will make traffic speed and volume measurements, review the traffic accident history for the street in question, and determine acceptable locations for the speed humps, and place that street on a prioritization list based on volume, speeds, and other considerations. With that, we're able to use funding in a way that's more strategic. So we're going through the process of approving and constructing the speed humps based on criteria like speed and volume and potential danger, rather than just the order in which they're received. So in speaking with the city manager, it sounds like we potentially have a new batch of requests that are coming through, and this would be an appropriate time to improve the criteria and to improve this policy by making sure that we are ordering the construction of those speed humps with some sort of prioritization framework. That would be my recommendation. I think that's very simple. As far as item H goes, right, which reads, In the event the number of requests for speed humps exceeds the funds available, the engineer will rank the requests in a recommended order. I think that we want to have that ranking done prior to the exhaustion of any funds. That way that we're prioritizing those most serious streets first and foremost. And then as far as some of the other recommendations in this policy, I don't have any comments on them at the moment, but that would be, from reading the policy, one of the most, obvious ways that we can improve it now. So that's my thought.
Councilmember Fox.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, that was, so just a little background. I've been researching this one pretty hard, speaking with community members. I made a couple calls to people who had recently gone through the petition process just to see how it was for them, see their concerns. And, I did a lot of research on speed humps back when we were doing the Kaya Sinaloa Street in particular, because it was in the district and I knew it was a little controversial and it had come a couple times to council. So that was one of the reasons I really wanted to lean into this and see if I could come up with some fresh eyes on this and see if I could come up with some good things. And one of the three things that I came up with is something like a priority list. It was recommended to me by a community member that maybe we did some rolling application periods. So you basically set a budget for a certain amount of time. And as the applications come in, they get scored, and then we get a priority list and approve them in one batch. And that kind of allows us to see, this is how much money we have. Here's the ones that are at this priority. It also helps us kind of be like, well, if we can do 7 on one street, or we can do 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and kind of have a recommendation on how to create the greatest good with the budget that's available to us. One of the other items that was brought up was combining the speed hump policy into our traffic calming policy. So to put those into one petition. So if a street believes that they need traffic calming, they could put in this petition. It goes to our city engineer, and they can come up with the residents aren't necessarily traffic engineers, so they don't necessarily know, they know they have a problem, and so they submit it to the city, and the city kind of looks at that street and comes up with a plan for, we think that the best solution to this problem that is minimally invasive to other community members, but solves the problem at hand, would be 3 speed humps, or 1 stop sign, or a roundabout, or speed table, or one of the other different options on the table, and have that presented to the traffic commission, have opportunities for those residents to respond at the commission meeting, have it presented to us, and then we have now basically our engineering department saying, there's a problem on this street, here's our solution for it, rather than a community member being locked into one or the other. Because on Kaya Sinaloa, there was a real debate between 4-way stop or speed humps, and there would have been 2 different application processes, and I couldn't ask them here on the dais, like, would a stop sign work for you? So that was the second thing. And the last one was to raise the threshold. Right now, the way that the petition works is it's all the community members right there next to the speed hump. And obviously, the way that what any kind of traffic thing works, mitigation tool works, is the benefits to it are felt directly by the residents that are the nearest to it. And then everyone in the town basically has the negative side effects. So wear and tear to cars, longer traffic waits, slowdowns of emergency vehicles, things like that affect everybody equally, but all the benefit is felt just from that neighborhood. So if we're only getting a 51% approval rating on the street that gets all the benefit, I don't think that that's quite a high enough threshold to subject the upstream traffic to those longer wait times for emergency services and things like that. So if it's something that's already pretty controversial on the street that gets all the benefits, it probably should be looked at a little differently. So those are the big 3 that I was thinking. I think together, if we merge all those, it's a little bit bigger thing. So that might be a longer conversation. But I think with all 3 of those put together, we'll have a really robust program here where residents they're telling us of their problem, and we're finding the most effective solution to that problem without locking them into a specific solution. And so love to hear what everyone else thinks about that.
Is that a motion to roll all those suggestions into one?
I'd love, yeah, can you turn that into a motion, or? I think that the 2/3 at 67% would be a reasonable one, but obviously I'm up to for debate on that. But do I need to state those three things as for my motion?
Sure.
Okay. So the motion would be to amend the speed hump policy, combine it with the traffic calming petition into one program, raise the threshold for requesting traffic calming items to a 2/3 majority, and create a rolling application period with a set budget for us to receive a priority list to vote on at one time.
Very good. Councilman O'Donnell.
I like that. I want to come back to your number, though, but I like your ideas. I really like the idea of a traffic calming policy that's all-encompassing. It actually gives people a lot of options beyond just the speed hump, which I think is good, because I think a lot of people think that the only option is a speed hump to try and slow people down. And it could be chicanes, it could be speed humps, it could be stop signs, it could be so many different things. And so I like the idea of rolling it in and giving residents the options to work with our engineer and staff to try and find something that works and suits them best. Is Chief Washington here by chance? Is Sam still here?
Sam's still here, yeah. The chief texted me. I just let him off the hook after his presentation. My apology.
I just want to get clarification on something. Hi, Sam. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you wait. When did we adopt the fire map? Do you remember?
I don't remember the exact date, but within the past 6 months or so, I would say, maybe a little longer.
In those 6 months, have we installed any speed humps within the zoning of the fire map in which the fire department asked us to not put any more speed humps?
Not since the map was adopted.
Okay. In the policy, it states 3 to 4 inches. Is there a reason that there'd be any variation? I know that we use a standard machine. Is it just off sometimes, or do different areas call for different heights, or what might lead to that?
Yeah, there's not actually a machine. It's a template that we created specifically for our speed humps. It's really just kind of a variance with the asphalt and the compaction. But generally, we're just above 3 inches on the ones that we've been installing.
Okay. And then also it states in there 200 feet minimum separation. Is there any area in the city in which that separation of 200 feet is not met?
The only one I can think of is Marabou Lane. I don't know the exact separation. That was the residents show up, and I think we got direction from the city council to install the 2 speed humps. It might be right around there. But
I asked that for a very specific reason. I feel like everybody feels like they're right on top of one another, especially when they're in succession. And the reality is, I know that they're not.
Yeah, we're generally about 400 feet, 350 minimum, but 450 even sometimes.
Yeah, but reality is perception sometimes to residents, and I completely understand that because I take Sunset every day. Luckily, those were put in before I was elected, or at least approved before I was elected, because I don't know if I would have approved 10 of them. But they've served the purpose, because I do talk to residents. I just got an email today from one that stated how successful it's been. They'd like to get them on their streets, but part of their land is in county, so they don't know if they would actually be applicable to them, but they're appreciative of what we're doing, especially on Sunset with the infrastructure improvements. So those are the only questions I had for you. I really do appreciate it. Actually, if residents were to request other, so if we move forward and do wrap this into a traffic calming policy versus an independent request, will that give residents options to choose from to work with our engineers? I mean, I know they can ask for things that just may not fit there, and that's where your expertise comes in, but does it give them the option to kind of look over what's available to reduce the speed and try and make it safer?
Yeah, in most streets, we could do I guess I call it the next level of traffic calming, like chicanes and roundabouts, but that really gets into more design, more engineering, definitely more construction cost. I mean, that's why I guess even at the staff.
Yeah, and so I guess that's the other piece of it that we need to consider as a council is what the cost would be for what could end up being a CIP. Definitely. At the end of it, when all you're going to do is spend $5,000 to $7,000 on a speed hump, which, by the way, what is the current number for each individual speed hump? I've been asked that question a number of times. I've gotten 2 answers over the course of time. I'm sure that the cost has gone up since we started this policy, but I was wondering if you could shine some light on that.
It varies by the street width, and it's anywhere between 5,000 and 7,500. Yeah. So the narrower streets are about 5,000.
So that information's accurate then. That's perfect. Thank you. That's all I have for now, Sam. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, I like your idea of creating a prioritization list. The only concern I have is when we build the metrics is that there are some residential areas that do have a larger population that may not meet the same criteria of speed and volume. And so I was just wondering if there's a way that we can factor that in to that policy and criteria. I mean, particularly I have a resident that there's not a large volume of traffic, but there are a lot of speeders when they do go down that street. And there's a lot of children that live on that street. So I'd be open to that. I just want to make sure that we can weigh in those factors when we're trying to consider what falls in the prioritization.
If I could just
Yeah,
respond.
absolutely.
I think that Sam and our engineering staff would be best to advise us on what that criteria for prioritization would look like. I appreciate Councilmember Fox's recommendation for kind of a regular rollout, right? And that those batches, I really believe that those most significant streets that have had the highest need for traffic calming have already had the speed humps going. I do believe that. I've seen that in my neighborhoods, but we still have more requests. And so maybe Sam can help us identify those as we continue to improve the policy. You know, is it volumes, right? Is it accident history? What are going to be the criteria that fit within that prioritization framework?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And we can definitely work with Sam and your team on that. I did have one more question for you, and I'm forgetting it right now. So hopefully I can remember it by the time you get up to the podium. Yeah. Oh, that's going to bug me because right when you said that, it popped in my head and I forgot it. Are you aware of any other cities that have a similar policy to what we have here in Vista?
Generally, the criteria is pretty similar from agency to agency. Petition thresholds might be a little different. Emergency response, right? The criteria, things like that. Some agencies kind of tend to have a more restrictive policy where they haven't done them, or just like we used to, not to do them for many years.
So is there an average threshold that you've seen across cities? Because I know that Councilmember Fox is saying 67%, which is a supermajority of all the neighbors. We are at 51.
Yeah.
Are there other cities that are like 55 or 60, or is it pretty consistently 67, or what does it look like?
I've seen as high as 75% and as low as the 51%.
And is there a map? So the question was raised by a public speaker. Is there a map of where these are going in, or is it just once they're requested, they come before us and that's it, or where they've been placed? Is there a digital map that we can pull online somewhere?
Yeah, we did put a map together, and actually, I believe we did put that layer on our city GIS map.
So it's available online?
And we've been doing quite a few, so it's about 2 months out of date. So with the next batch that was approved, that will be installed, and we'll update the map again.
So prior to the 2 months that it's behind, how long has that been available online?
It's been a few months.
Okay, so it's been out there. Okay. My other question is, how many outstanding speed hump requests that have not gotten signatures back yet? So where you've researched the data and done all the other stuff, how many of those are outstanding at the moment?
So we have 17 currently active, where we just began the fire department consultation process. We have not gone through the criteria checklist yet.
So if somebody has
17
one
streets.
from, say, 3 months ago, and they just haven't gotten the signatures yet, are you including that in that 17, or are there just...
Yeah, so there's another 13 where we've gone through the entire screening process, fire department and all that checklist. And we sent those out to the requesters with the petition map, and we have not seen those back yet.
So there's 30 technically active at the moment?
Yes. Yeah, it seems like it has slowed down. We used to get the petitions back pretty quickly. Some of these, it's been months, and we may not see them back.
All right, perfect, thank you. So here's what I do. Councilmember Fox, if you'll accept a friendly amendment to lower the threshold to 60% instead of 67, I feel if 6 out of 10 people are saying they want it, it's more than a simple majority, and it's enough to show that it's probably necessary and needed. I would like to exclude the 30 active requests that are on here. If they've already requested it, I don't want to have them have to go back and re-request it or send our engineers out again or redo another study or whatever it might be. So if we can exclude the 30 active that are not even in the pipeline because they haven't been submitted yet, but just so that way they still have the opportunity to do so, then I will be supportive of your motion.
Councilmember Contreras.
I like the the idea of prioritization. I do think that it's probably going to require a separate discussion. I think it should come back to the council and us really take a look at staff's recommendation. Potentially, there's, a few different options that staff sees. I think one of them, one of the goals should include what this council unanimously resolved to do, which is get to Vision Zero. I think that's critical. With regards to the 60%, I'm curious, if there's any latitude for maybe homes that don't have anybody in them, or difficulty accessing a request for a signature. Because I think that could, in effect, you're saying, yeah, let's raise the threshold. But I am curious to see if we could have some kind of a carve out in the policy regarding, homes that might be in that affected area, but that don't have anybody present in the home. Yeah, go ahead.
So I 100% would agree with you and be on board with that. And I think that in the existing policy, all of those homes, so what's supposed to take place is my understanding is that you're supposed to do around, any house that you miss, you're supposed to go back to and record. And so I think that should be taken into consideration if they're just unable to be reached and it's a reasonable attempt. What we don't want are residents just go around and write down, oh, knocked on the door, they weren't home, once they have the threshold met. But if there are homes, I know I lock my gate at my front house. You can't get into my backyard unless I come out and let you in. So if someone knocked on a door for me to try and get a speed hump in front of the house, they wouldn't be able to get a hold of me. So yes, I think that absolutely should be taken into consideration. And I think that's kind of built into the policy as it exists. But there's always room for discussion. At the end of the day, it is still going to be ultimately up to this body to approve them at the end, right? So if there's one where a resident is communicating with anybody on this council, we should take that feedback seriously and go with them and then work with our engineers and figure out if there's something we can do to get it approved. There's pockets of the city, you go down Sunset, it takes you forever. And how do you even fill the criteria? What if there's only 8 homes there and they're all spread out? So yeah, I'm open to that conversation.
And so that's where, I'm just curious, because if that were the situation and someone was at 59% because of that situation, it wouldn't ever make it to us to have that discussion. So I just don't know how we would address that in this policy.
It's really difficult, honestly, for city staff to be able to address that issue through a signature process, because the timing of when it's vacant, when the signature gets taken from the neighbor versus when we go to hearing and who's in the house at that point. There's lots of issues there that I see that are difficult for us to regulate.
Right. That's where I think that, in theory, the 60% could be good, but to allow flexibility, I feel like even just having a 55%, I think demonstrates that the majority of the folks would want to have it. I don't know if it's different, for most of the petitions, they seem to be 60% or north of that. I know I have several petitions, that it was like 100% that I've seen come through. So yeah, I just because it's so difficult to address that potential issue, I'm just curious if there's the ability to maybe lower it a little bit below 60%, even if it were, somewhere 55, 57%. I think that's still showing that a majority of the folks do want it. So wanted to offer that as food for thought. That's it from me.
Okay, Councilmember Fox.
All right, thank you. I think that makes a lot of sense to, if someone's not home or the address isn't reachable or something like that, it shouldn't automatically count as a no, but it shouldn't count as a yes either. So I think it'd be reasonable to say of the current policy of have to try to reach out twice, and if it doesn't work, if they can't reach them, then they can just say not present or something. And I think you're right. It's probably hard to check that, but I think the only real solution to that is probably just if it gets approved and it has really close to that margin, and then people are coming to the traffic commission meetings and saying, like, you know, there's like 30 people. It's like, they never knocked on my house. I have Ring cameras and, you know, no one's ever, you know, that kind of thing. And there's like some evidence that they're lying on their form or something. But I think we probably just trust the process. Like if they say that they knocked and they didn't, and then let people fight it if they did. It's probably the only thing we can do. You know, I think that I mean, I preferred that 67%, but I think including some of the motivations for what you're talking about with, like, you know, people being hard to reach, I think lowering it down to the threshold that Councilmember O'Donnell of the 60 would probably maybe make up for a little bit of that. Again, like, I think that it needs to have some pretty solid support, especially if we're opening the types of items that we can, the types of solutions that we can provide. So then if someone was against the speed humps, but they would have been fine with the stop sign, now maybe they would have voted for it that they wouldn't have on the previous petition. So I think maybe giving some more flexible options, I'm hoping actually, you know, allows people to be a little bit more supportive of it in the first place. So I think it should make the process a little more attractive to people to vote positively for on the petition in the first place. And in the case that it isn't, you know, I think that it should be, especially since we're talking about some things that could potentially have higher ticket volumes that or dollar values, that we should be very cautious with things that are not even they're controversial on the streets that they're being provided on. So when it comes to exclusions for active petitions, that makes a lot of sense, is they got pitched a process. So if they're already in the process and they have the signatures and they're about to turn it in, and we changed the percentage on them last second, I think that's probably a reasonable thing to do. And I think when it comes to those criteria and the priority list, I completely agree. I think that we have to probably look at that priority list, especially again if we're combining it with the traffic calming program. I think it's probably the priority list is probably going to change quite significantly, I would guess, is what those criteria are. And how we look at that. So I think that would be something that I think staff would probably have to bring back to us. But I think that's all my comments. I'd be open. So we're asking for the friendly amendment to the 60% and then to exclude those. Would that be sufficient? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you wanted to address the 57.
Okay. I'll keep the amendment to 60% for now. And I mean, I think that that's pretty reasonable at that point. So what do I have to do can I just accept the friendly amendment as is, or okay? And then I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Melendez.
Thank you. Appreciate the discussion. I have a couple of arguments to why I support a lower threshold. But first, I want to say that I agree with you, Councilmember Fox, that when we kind of package this program as something that's, you know, more of a full-fledged traffic calming program, it will definitely give the community a little bit more buy-in because they're going to see all the options. I know that Sam's already doing that, right? Sam works with the constituents and, you know, they come to him with a request, hey, I have speeds on my street, like, can we get speed humps, right? That seems to be the most reasonable way. And Sam does a lot of education. It's kind of, you know, is softly doing that already. My other thought is, and I agree that at that, you know, 51, 55%, you know, we could split the difference and say 57%. At that lower threshold, the council's not able to see it, but that doesn't mean we can't include it. So this is an opportunity for us to use the percentage of votes that a petition gets as part of the prioritization. So maybe if a petition gets 55% of the vote, that scores less than a petition that gets 60% of the vote. So my challenge is that we're not going to be able to see the petition unless it has 60% of the vote. And I think that could be a disservice, right, to the community that is asking and making this request of us. It basically said, oh, we're just not going to hear it, right? If you have 55% of the people who want speed humps on your street, you know, and of course the people who are not home, they're just like it's like an abstention. They're just eliminated from the vote. But I don't feel right about that. I think if 55% of people sign a petition, that they deserve to be heard by us. And so maybe what we can do to consider the weight of their vote and the weight of their petition is that if you get more votes on the petition, clearly there's a bigger appetite, and maybe there's a way that Sam can come back and explain to us how that can be fit into the prioritization as well. Of course, this council isn't necessarily committing, right? We're not saying, okay, if you have 50% of people signing this, 55% of people signing this petition, then fine, have it come to the council and we'll approve it, no problem. No, I think that a reform of this policy means that we're going to be a little bit more stringent and thoughtful about the criteria, not only because of financing, but also because of staff time, right? So I do appreciate the opportunity for us to give clear direction to staff. But I would say that if 55% of residents sign a petition saying they want some sort of traffic calming in their area, then they have a right to be heard by the council. But we may want to consider, how does that lower threshold fit into the prioritization of all the other petitions that we have? Of course, a petition that has 80% of residents signing for it versus a petition that has 55% of residents signing for it, I would certainly be quicker to approve the petition with 80% of those approved. So that would be my piece of feedback. I'm willing to support, the motion that's on the floor, but I think that we can continue to modify the policy so that different thresholds of approvals on the petition can be seen as part of a prioritization.
I love the idea of the rolling application, and we look at this once or twice a year instead of every meeting and constantly be out in the field putting speed bumps in. I would just remind the council that the council can put a speed bump wherever it wants. So the council is never bound by this number. This is just the number we're sending people out to get. If you make a determination, if the council makes a determination that the safety requires it, then we can always promote that with or without a petition. I wouldn't go making Sam write 10 pages of conditions. Why don't you agree to amount that we're gonna spend? Let's set a budget for speed bumps. And then why don't you cut it in 4? And if one of you wants to horse trade and go, I need more in my district, and you're not asking for them, whatever. But make it fair. That way you allocate the resources across the 4 districts, and you're the ones in your districts working directly with your residents. You ought to have a lot of weight to what you say to prioritize the speed bumps in your district, because you're the one that should be working directly most. That's my recommendation, is not to overcomplicate the metrics. Let's not write an algorithm to figure out what goes to the top. Why don't you give yourself some latitude to make the decision? Councilmember Contreras.
I think allocating a certain amount of funding is a good idea if we were just looking at the speed humps, but the way that the motion is presented is that this is going to be for traffic calming, which we understand includes things like roundabouts, traffic circles, raised pedestrian tables, a myriad of other devices that are potentially much more expensive than a speed hump. And I think that us trying to figure out what that amount would be probably could take us all night, and we would still not get anywhere near where we should be. And then I'm also wondering, what this process looks like for the user. So the individual who's going through, now that it's going to be rolled into one, which I'm not opposed to, I feel like there could be a lot of confusion when you're going door to door. Right now it's like, oh, we're doing it for a speed hump. But if you're going around doing it for just traffic calming, that I feel like this is not going to work. I think there could be a substantial amount of issues. So I feel like what we should do at this point is direct staff to take a look at the request from council and the recommendation, bring that back so that we can analyze what that form looks like, and Sam can help us walk through what that process looks like when we're doing just one traffic calming petition versus one particular device or another. Because I think I could totally see this causing more confusion. One of the issues is that residents didn't have a good process before, and there was a lot of frustration. So, yeah, if you are thinking maybe there's some sense that we should see this one more time before we just agree to it, like I think that we should. I don't know if in general this needs to come back anyways. I would assume that it probably would.
Yeah, we'd have to bring back the revised policy based on the direction we get tonight.
Okay. Yeah, so I think at that discussion, I would want to understand and have a demonstration of what that walkthrough looks like, because we have to be able to communicate that to our constituents. And right now, I don't know how to do that at this point, because the constituent may want a speed table, right? But what if everybody, in that neighborhood is like, well, we don't want that. We actually just want the speed humps. And then you get to a point of, where you just can't move forward because there's a discussion on what should be the appropriate traffic calming device. And then it, might as well just bring those things up to council directly to have, a more thorough discussion. The other situation is I would like to know, maybe on the weekly update or maybe some other way, which petitions are out there and in which district. I don't think we get that information right now. Yeah, okay, that'd be great. And then to add to that, if something gets above 50% but is below the 60%, I think that the council member for that district should be flagged, because then that council member could go and have a conversation with the team captain and figure out, hey, not that we have all the time in the world, right? But that we could go and have some more communication with our constituent who was, trying to be active and promoting more safety on their street and figure out what the actual issues are. But if I don't get alerted, I literally have no idea. So those are the two different things. But, I think that when we see this again, it'll probably offer us another opportunity to work out some of these things. And maybe it takes us 3 meetings to actually put forward a good policy. But I think, I'm really appreciative of this council looking at traffic calming and taking it seriously, because our residents surely do. And so this is a really good discussion. That's all for me. Thanks.
So just to clarify, you talked about roundabouts. Are we giving direction? Is this what we're doing? That people by 57% could vote to put a roundabout in the middle of the resident? Is that what we're talking about here?
No, so what the motion was to have the application say that our street needs some sort of traffic calming thing and have our city staff determine what would be the best solution for that area, rather than them petition for a specific type of thing.
So it's not like a menu I can come to City Hall and pick from
No.
11 different things, including a roundabout in my driveway.
No, the big
I just
purpose,
get the 57%
the main
vote.
purpose of this was to take the selection process of saying that the resident has to pick which traffic calming thing and put that in the hand of our engineers, so the experts to decide, what thing would actually be the
The
best.
traffic engineer is going to select which traffic calming device.
Right, correct.
Okay.
That was my.
To be frank, Mayor, we're really talking about speed humps and stop signs. The staff really is probably not going to be in a position to make a recommendation for anything more than that.
Okay. I kind of felt like, because we did so many speed humps, we should have a policy for speed humps and then have a policy for everything else. That doesn't seem like that's the pleasure of the council.
Can I give
It's
a
less
point
confusing.
Can I have a point of information, please? As I've discussed this item with Sam, my understanding is that stop signs are not technically considered traffic calming devices. All those like raised pedestrian medians and speed humps are. So Sam, would you be able to speak to that as to what might fall on? I understand if someone comes to you and says, I want traffic calming, you're probably going to recommend a speed hump. Is that right?
So we do have 2 separate policies, the speed humps and the traffic calming program as a whole. And a couple of years ago, when we updated our traffic calming program, we did put stop signs in there as an option for traffic calming. even though the standards generally say don't use them, but in my judgment, they've worked very well. So, and they are the lowest cost, lowest design device. And then speed humps are kind of like the next step up.
I understand. So our current policy, and thank you for this information. Our current policy is we have two programs, speed hump petition process and a traffic calming process, and that's just a stop sign petition.
Pretty much, because the other devices are.
They should be combined then. Thanks.
You said they should or should not be? They should. Okay, they should be.
But I should clarify, sorry. I was going to say the other.
If we know it's limited, and we can agree it's limited to stop signs and speed bumps, but if we're talking chicanes, which I got to look that up, remember what that is. Oh, it's the wavy thing, yeah, okay, got it.
Based on the scenario that Councilmember Fox brought forward in his argument about, really the debate on that street about stop signs versus speed humps, maybe that's just like a one-off scenario, right? Or maybe it is an indication that these should be combined. I'm not sure.
Are we in clear territory here with Brown Act, with the way we've agendized this, for this, adding the stop signs? Is it okay, can we limit this? I mean, we can do another policy on chicanes, but can we limit this to the speed bumps and the stop signs so we have clarity of what the staff is going to write into this policy?
Yes, because I mean, I was only under the impression that it had we added the speed tables recently, I think, to the speed,
we could do that.
To the traffic calming policy, but I thought there wasn't much more than stop signs.
Speed table and a speed hump is essentially a similar cost when you break it down. So those are probably three things that we could reasonably recommend.
I also thought of, crosswalks and just things where people are saying we have an issue on our street that needs to be solved, and and having the city come help us, basically. Yeah,
there's a limitless number of
So we can look
traffic
at
calming devices.
We can look at what we would recommend as part of the policy that wouldn't be a high dollar item when we bring it back.
I'd be open to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Are we okay, though, limiting this to the three things, speed humps, speed tables, and stop signs? We can have another policy on the... Okay, Councilmember O'Donnell.
You better be careful. You almost had a video made about you. Sorry, Mayor, I couldn't help myself. But no, I actually appreciate the point you brought up, and I mean that sincerely. So the fact that we can bring these forward anytime we want is something that does serve us. I think the idea that we can flag anything under 60% is a good idea. I am willing, if you're willing to make a friendly amendment to your motion, to drop the traffic calming policy addition until staff and direct staff to come back with a policy that we can look at and adopt, or at least have a larger conversation about. If you'll remove that piece and direct staff to do that, I will support everything else within the body of your motion. So are you open to that?
100%.
All right, well then I will second your motion, sir.
Okay, anything else, Councilmember Fox?
No, I was basically just going to say I agree with the things that were brought up, so, yep.
Okay. Since it's your motion, you want to restate it real quick so we all remember where we're at?
Absolutely. So the current motion is to raise the threshold for requesting traffic calming to, I believe it's a 60% now. Have a rolling application period with a set budget to prioritize which ones are actually built in each rolling period, and to have staff come back to us with a policy that would combine the speed hump policy into the traffic calming policy and what devices that would include.
Okay.
Was there anything else that I missed?
That sounds good. And while we're waiting for Deputy Mayor, we'll hear again from Mr. Conley.
There was some discussion that I unfortunately missed about the existing applications that are out there. There's 13.
13 that are
out, and there's 17 that we still have that we haven't sent out yet.
Yes.
Will not be included in the 60% threshold.
Got it, grandfather. That's what I was trying to clarify. Thank you. That's for all 30. For all 30. Yeah. Thank you.
Councilmember Contreras.
Okay, so just to understand, when we move this forward, say we agree on it, so the traffic calming policy is going to come back? Okay, but so is this, so starting, tomorrow, or does this need a cure I mean, it still needs to come back and we need to adopt it, right, again? Okay, so technically, anything that comes in between now and when we actually accept it would be grandfathered? Because like, it's not actually in our municipal code yet. So I feel that we should just clarify that anything that comes in before this policy is adopted will be grandfathered under the old rules. I mean, is there consensus on that?
It's fine with me.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make that clarification. Okay, yeah. This has been a great discussion. Fantastic. You're all amazing, especially you, Sam.
Deputy Mayor, did you have anything else? No. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second, and it's been clarified. I think we all know what we're voting on, so please cast your votes. Okay. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. That'll bring us to oral communications. Well, I think we already closed the opportunity for oral communications, but with unanimous consent here, we'll reopen it for Mary Gilman and give her an opportunity for 3 minutes. Since she was patient and listened to all that speed hump conversation.
Actually, I will at some other time want to address that in our neighborhood. But thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening on a different topic and different than I've spoken on before. So as you all know, Vista has a proud history of being an agricultural and farming community. And so I am part of a group called the Vista Crop Swap. And we have been meeting in Brengle Terrace Park for years, one Saturday a month between 8 and 9, and when no one else wants to be playing basketball or whatever in the area. At our last meeting, a ranger from Parks and Recs came and said, well, we can't be meeting there. And we're like, really? We've been doing this for years. And so he referred us to Mr. Pacheco, who a number of us sent in letters explaining what we do. We offer free produce. You know, a lot of us are fortunate to have fruits and vegetable trees and gardens, and offer that for free, and we trade them. And anyone going by, we bring them in and try to educate them and share, you know, they can take whatever they want. And also, our goal is to reduce waste, which of course is a big goal of the city. So so a number of us wrote letters, and Mr. Pacheco came back and told us, well, you know, this is the rule, and said, these are the permits that you need to get from the city and from the county because you have food items. And, you know, we're just trying to share our food. We're not an organization. It's not like we have resources that we can be buying permits, and we don't charge anyone that attends. You know, you just show up and share. So we're at the point, next week will be our monthly, you know, gathering, and so we are kind of have our hands tied. And so I would like to share some of the email correspondence that we've had, and ask that you add this as an agenda item, maybe for next city council, and ask people who've been attending and the benefits that they've been obtaining to come and speak. So, I mean, it just, you know, again, it would be different if we were charging people to have, you know, we just pull up into the parking lot, and again, at 8 o'clock, no one's using it. We pull in and we have our produce and we, you know, share it. So I would like to request your support and come out and get some get some goods, but also maybe help us in this and maybe guide us. So, and you know, no one, like I said, it said an hour that it's not like we're depriving anyone of using it, and now we're going to be deprived and have to find a different location, which would be not a public area.
Thank you very much.
Can you text me?
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, that's the end of our agenda. Opportunity for public comments is closed. Now we'll hear comments from staff. Anything from our city clerk's office tonight? City attorney? Mr. City
I
Manager?
have an update on the Pepper Tree Frosty project. I'd like to clarify for everyone, it's important to clarify the city did not initiate this project, nor is the city shutting down the Pepper Tree Frosty, despite what has been claimed on social media. This project is led by the Villasenor family, who've owned and operated the Pepper Tree Frosty since 1953. The Villasenor family has made the decision to begin a new chapter by reimagining the site at South Santa Fe and Eucalyptus, what many know as the Pepper Tree Corner. Their vision includes a modern twist on the legacy of Pepper Tree Frosty, along with new retail space and apartment homes. They partnered with Tideline Partners to help bring this plan forward. It'll go to the Planning Commission for early design review next week on the 17th, and it's about a 6 to 9 month process before it comes forward for a final decision. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Fox.
All right, thank you. Last week I had my quarterly North County Dispatch Joint Powers Association meeting. Nothing really to report. We approved the budget that I went over last time. We had a 9% increase in calls in Vista with only a 0.44% cost increase to the city of Vista. So I thought that was a pretty good deal for us. It's Taco Tuesday today, so make sure you drive by one of our amazing fast food or Mexican food restaurants and grab some tacos today. It's Rhythm and Brews on June 28th in downtown Vista. Make sure you get your tickets for that. Yeah, I know. Everyone's got to get their tickets for that for sure. And then thank you to my lovely wife, who is probably home by now. I hope so. And that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember O'Donnell.
I want to thank the city of San Marcos for hosting Cal Cities in a wonderful panel yesterday. Unfortunately, I left my notes up on my desk, so I will share those and that feedback at the next council meeting. I do remember that there is still a lot of sewage pouring into the Tijuana River Valley, and it is not just specific to the San Diego region. It is finding its way all the way up the coastline. So I'm going to take a trip down there. I believe some of our other staff, Melda Huerta back there, would like to go. So if anybody would care to join us, please do. I think it's really important, not just for that area, but regionally as well. Aside from that, any resident out there that ever wishes to get a hold of me, you can email me at dodonnell@vista.gov. I do respond. There was a comment made earlier that we were told to email, and after going back and forth on requests, I had suggested 3 different times that individual email me. So just for clarification, I will always respond to you and get you the information if I can. I just didn't have it in that moment. Beyond that, this was a very good meeting. So I thank you all for that, and thank you to my lovely wife for allowing me to serve on this body as she always does. I love you, Allie. I love you, Caleb and Jacob, and I hope you all have a good night.
Councilmember Contreras.
All right, if you have been around Vista, you're probably seeing NCTD Plus, the van going around. Please, if you have any questions of how to use it, let me know. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so every single Wednesday, Guerreras en Acción por un Vista Limpio is out there cleaning District 1. Great group of volunteers. If you do want to join, you can reach out to Jovita Serafin. If you have any trouble connecting, you can reach out to me and I'll connect you to them. And outside of that, I just hope everybody has a really good rest of your day, your week, and happy Pride Month.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you all for the discussion tonight. Not too much more from me. I just want to say thank you. Earlier, we had some youth volunteers who talked about picking up cigarette butts and doing a cleanup over the weekend. And I thought that was a very impressive batch of yucky cigarette waste, and I just want to say kudos to them. Very awesome. Keep doing it, and we're going to try to make our city cleaner. Thanks.
Okay, on Saturday, June 4th, the City of Vista and EDCO are teaming up to help residents declutter. From 9 a.m. to noon at the Vista Civic Center, the city will host a free paper shredding, e-waste drop-off, and compost giveaway event. Bring up to 2 bankers boxes for shredding, recycle your old electronics, and pick up free compost. While supplies last, remember to bring your bags, gloves, and shovel. Goodwill will also be on site accepting gently used items. For details, visit the city's calendar at vista.gov. And Councilmember O'Donnell, I second your comments. Matter of fact, the Imperial Beach City Council approved a resolution that I think we should take a look at here in Vista to ask the federal government to take some accountability steps on getting this problem solved. 5 million gallons of sewage a day that's being dumped onto our beaches. Thank you to my beautiful wife, Shauna, for allowing me to serve. She's probably getting ready for bed right now, and I appreciate all the nights that she is without me, and it won't be forever, but thank you to her for letting me do this. It's an honor to serve. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.